And it started. So alpha playtest 2 of 4, never knows best, the FLCL anime type thing that is happening. I'll have to come up with a one sentence or few word version of that doesn't rely on a pop culture reference, but we'll see. We'll see what this turns into. So, Oliver is at the plant in an internship. That's the hubbub on the tube these days. Aiden has challenged you to tag something, and it was escalated to go to the roof. You got into the sort of like service entry area, and we're just climbing out onto the roof, and that's where we had cut. And since I hadn't described Aiden before, Aiden is wearing like a baseball cap that's white and do the cool thing where it's like, backwards. They have glasses on that are also black. They have a hoodie with multiple layers over it. So the hoodie is covering up a sweater that has like a black hood, and they have like distressed cool jeans going on with some sort of skater wear, and they have their stupid backpack that serves no purpose whatsoever from the special forces. Cool. So why don't we? What?
I was gonna say I mysteriously had the key, also.
Oh yeah, that was cool. You we'll have to figure out what happens with that in the future. To start with, why don't we remind each other what everyone's labels are? Because there is a peripheral type move where you can hit on people's labels similar to Monster Hearts, where it's kind of like leaning into conditions to get a bonus to your roll. And that is on page 4 of the document that I gave you on the bottom right side. So when you take advantage of the label, you may tempt someone into doing something in keeping with the label. If they do it, you both mark XP. You can add 1 to the distress you cause them, the Garrett move of Monster Hearts, where he just outright distresses people. Or you can help or hinder them in a roll, entangling yourself in the outcome. And you can subtract or add a 1 as you like to that. So if you were playing into Aiden's monstrosity or monstrous label, for instance, you could hamper him in a particular role coming up here or something like that. Right? To refresh your memory on the basic moves too, you have Get Your Way, which is basically above and beyond getting your way. You're also sort of like setting the trend that everybody else needs to buck with Reject Conformity, which is also your way of shedding labels. So if you have something on you right now that you're like, I don't think so, you need to figure out a way to reject that conformity, and then as a result, you can choose to shed the label. And also place a label on somebody else as well. But you can rise to the moment, which is sort of like our defy danger type thing, except that it works in much the same way as Monster Hearts, where you'll tell me what you're afraid of and what might happen, and then we roll. So we inform the fiction in that way. Shaping the world is sort of the spout lore-ish thing, especially because in this version of that type of move in the game, you can add a detail or you can get a detail from the MC, and that's sort of negotiated with me depending on the scope of what it is that you're trying to add or not. If it's something that might already be established in the setting or something, I might just tell you. If it's not, then I might just say that you can add the detail to the world and whatnot. Lashing out is exactly what it sounds like. You're hurting somebody. Running away is what it sounds like. Yeah, running away. And when you take distress, that's how you turn into a robot. Something I'm toying with that I think might be fun as well after our discussion last time is it might be fun if you can turn into a robot and sort of like stress yourself out. Like maybe when you hit your distress level at 4, you must turn into a robot, or else internalize that pain by repressing it. But perhaps it's turning into the robot might be a voluntary thing. I just need to work with the mechanics and see how to balance it, because I don't want people just be like, and I'm a robot every time, right? I think a major part of the game is turning into a robot and seeing if the repress good trait that you have there is something that you can prove to be true, which you get XP on. So voluntarily turning into it, I'll probably have something mechanical that like hampers something about it, right? Like I think you'll be more powerful if you, or can bring more out of yourself if you involuntarily turn into one or something. We'll see, but we'll see how the fight mechanics go with that. So when you turn into a robot, you have additional moves ready, which is fight alone and fight together. This session, at a meta level, I'm going to be definitely aiming towards pushing you guys at a fight together, because I want to learn if this move works or not, and if it does work or not. Or if it does work, I should say, to try to figure out if it's like fitting into the design goal regardless of a PBTA game. Even if it does work, maybe it's got some weird dissonance with the rest of the moves, which are not formulated in such a way. Also, as a child, when you take a powerful blow mentally, emotionally, or physically, you'll take the move, take a powerful blow, and that all the options are really bad. So I would recommend not taking a powerful blow if you can help it. And I think that's about it. So normally at the start of the game, I'd have people telling everybody about their bedrooms, but we've already done that last session and not much has happened. So let's start with what labels people have and traits, maybe, just to remind people what the characters are like and how to play into them and stuff like that. David, do you want to say what your traits and labels are?
Yeah, so I'm playing Jackson, and my traits are eccentric and curious, and my labels are childish, loner, and skills.
Get them skills. Yeah, cool. And Lauren, your character traits and labels?
Yeah, my traits are flexible and audacious, and my labels are abandoned and available and nosy. So I'm a real delight.
Yeah. And your character's Kit, right?
Oh, yes, I'm Kit.
Yeah, cool. Mark?
I'm playing Felix. My traits are selfish and obsessed, and my labels are morbid, untapped, stern, and leader.
You're a vampire. We don't really know what that means yet, but we know you are one.
Or am I?
Yeah, exactly. There's something going on, which is very anime.
I'm alien, so.
Yeah. Cool. And Patrick?
I'm playing Laszlo, who's the peripheral. I just sort of like tend to sink into my music in my own private world because I'm deep, man. My traits are insular and experimental, and then my labels right now are secure, secretive, and jovial.
Cool.
And yeah, my move has to do with escaping from the world and not paying attention to y'all.
Yay! Cool. All right. So let me go back to the move sheets here. Cool. Let's do a quick round of wishes too. I like doing this at the start of sessions just so I know where people are driving to. Do you want to start with a wish for this session, Patrick?
I guess I'm just hoping at the end of our exciting train ride to see some of the like weirdnesses of this super mega city and how it's different from our little village.
Cool. Like the mega corporation, you mean, or?
Well, because like we had the power plant and this idea of like this big built up sort of metropolis in the center, and we're like in a satellite village that's sort of separated from it. We ride this tube into the city and into school and stuff.
Oh, okay. In my head, actually, what I had was like your. I thought the mega corporation, or I should get used to the name, Harmonic Megalatronics, is like a really big factory wind farm type thing happening outside of the city, and the tram is going to those series of buildings, and one of which is the whatchamacallit, like the school that they have constructed for y'all, right?
I gotcha.
Yeah. Um, that's what I had in my brain. Did everybody else, are people more interested in you riding a tram to a big city type thing, or what do people have for expectations for that? David?
I didn't have any particular expectations about the school complex, whether it's part of a bigger city or whether it's just an insular sort of its own thing.
Okay. And Lauren?
I think I dig like the not grim, but like, and not sad, but like that kind of slice of life, like insular school kind of thing, where it's like it's breaking out is like part of like our ambitions, I guess.
Right. Okay. And Mark?
So I'd have been fine with either. If I had to choose one that I preferred, I think I'm liking just the mega complex where everything shoots off of the harmonic megalatronics. So
Okay.
kind of like it's a tumor or something like that. So
Cool. Yeah. Patrick, is that cool with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. So you're interested in finding out more about that, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
the weirdnesses of the plant of the megacorp, all that sort of stuff.
yeah. And actually, that'll be a good thing to remind you all of too. So the mainstream in this setting that we have created it is loud and buzzing like power lines. The hamsters are cute. Logos are pervasive. There's a secret agenda that only adults understand. The wheels are squeaking, and they own and build the school with corporate indoctrinating learning. Your counterculture is chains for no purposes, spiky hair, distressed look, hot topic goth aesthetic, do-it-yourself aesthetic, Tamagotchis, classic music / cello, 16-bit music, MIDI, etc., video games, shoplifting, space, appropriation of aesthetic, and Scott Pilgrim. So that's what we're leaning into at a meta level. Mark, do you have a wish?
I wish someone, either an NPC or a PC, like asks me what I'm all about, so that I can begin to reveal my secret in game. I don't know how that's going to work, but there you go.
Cool. That sounds good. Lauren, wish?
I am looking forward to judging each other and putting labels on everyone.
Right. So you're just gonna be a labeler. Cool. David?
Robot fight.
Oh yeah, I remember. Cool. Okay, well, not to spoil anything, but I think a robot fight will happen soon. Cool. Okay, so let's jump in then. So the camera like cuts back in on this episode with the sound of like the whipping wind, right? As like the last thing I believe that we had shown was the sort of like maintenance hatch with a ladder, and then on top would be the like the panel, I guess, that you would move aside. Not really sure. I guess it's attached on one end, so when you move it aside, it doesn't just fly away and shit, right? So that panel's moved aside. The wind is like whipping and around and stuff like that. And who do we think is in front, leading this foray?
I'm the leader, right?
Ostensibly, just because they labeled you that doesn't mean you have to be, man.
Well, in my mind, I parted the sea of people, opened or unlocked it, and then headed up, kind of tucking the manga I was reading, like in between my pants and my shirt or whatever, in a cool, hip way.
Yes, it's very cool. And like, if this were an anime that was airing weekly, then like all the people are like freeze framing and trying to figure out what manga it is that you're reading, right? And trying to figure out like what is trying to be communicated to them.
Obviously, the cover is the cover of this manga that this anime was adapted from.
Oh, meta AF.
That or the previous manga from the same creator.
Right. Cool. Okay, so I think as you get up and the wind is whipping by, that's when the soundtrack kicks in, right? We get some bass lines and stuff like that, as we know at a meta level that shit's about to go down. So vampire love and Andromedus love make. I love it. Gotta have the love. Cool. So here's a question for everybody behind. Is anybody rejecting conformity here, or is everybody in on this now that the stakes have escalated? Before I asked you before, when everyone was like, oh yeah, totally, we'll just go tag the top of the train, it'll be fine. Now things are a little bit more real, aren't they? Is anybody wanting to reject conformity, or is everybody going up?
Again, like I'm the one that everybody turned to see if this was cool. Like I can't back down now.
It's true.
I'm responsible for all this. I'm sort of like their leader, even though that guy's in front.
Yeah.
And if Leslie's on board, then Kit's definitely on board.
What about Jackson?
Jackson wants to see what happens.
Oh, so is Jackson bringing up the rear?
Yeah, he's probably gonna bring up the rear.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. So I think this is in typical anime fashion. It's just like fairly difficult to navigate on top of the train, not impossible, like the winds are whipping and the kids are just like, oh, it's so windy, and you keep like walking on the train. It's not an impossible feat, but I think perhaps the leader, I'm gonna see if you can rise to the moment. So I will ask you, when you choose to act despite foreseeable or unforeseeable consequences that frighten you, name that fear, describe what you're afraid might happen, and then roll. So what are you afraid of, if anything?
So I have a repressed trait of brave. So I guess, well, one of my fears, I'm going to talk this out. One of my fears would be just having to be up here by myself. And like, I would have to tap into that bravery or whatever. But I guess my fear is that one of my friends would get hurt. Does that work?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. So let's go with the hurt part, since I really don't know how to deal with the repressed trait part.
Yeah, the repressed trait is more. Think of the repressed stuff as stuff that you deal with when you turn into the robot, and then the top part is the stuff that you deal with as a kid, typically. And the other stuff, when it's repressed and you're a kid, is more like just things that you're playing toward, I think. But not directly engaging with necessarily. Does that make sense?
A little bit. I'm sure the more I play, the more
Yeah.
it makes sense.
For sure. Sounds good. Okay, cool. So when you roll, you're tagging your traits and the labels that apply here. And that will get you your die and modifier. So you need to take a trait and a label to get the 2d6, and then take additional labels beyond that to get additional +1s.
Okay. Well, it's not very selfish. My other trait is obsessed. So I guess what I'm doing is kind of fanatically making sure everyone gets where we're going safely. So not just walking. Well, I don't know. This isn't really in character for me.
What I was playing with for if we did reach a situation where people couldn't tag a trait,
Yeah.
is they could still tag a bunch of labels and it could still be a success because you would get a die and be able to tag things in your labels beyond it to get an increased modifier. That, or I was thinking either rolling with disadvantage, but I hadn't really landed on what.
Can I try rolling just the one die then?
Yeah, for sure.
You can also just fail this roll and get the XP, and someone gets hurt.
Yay, XP.
Well, I'm gonna try with the one die, and I'm gonna say that this is part of my. I'm stern, and I'm being the leader. So I'm being very serious. I'm telling people what to do. So that's 1d6 plus 2.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
Let me see. Did you put the rolls
yeah.
for card? There it is. I got it.
Oh, okay, you got it. Cool.
Yeah. We're doing the renewing hen, I think.
Yeah, nicely renewing. It's a good one.
Alrighty. So 1d6 plus 2.
Hey.
I got an 8.
Boom. There you go. So yeah, that's good. That's good that works. Hey, nice. Okay, so on an 8 for Rise to the Moment, on a 7 to 9, acting will leave you vulnerable. The MC will tell you how. Back down or go through with it, your choice. Okay, so I think what was the things that you tagged again? Sorry?
Stern and leader.
Stern and leader. Okay, yeah. So I think the reason why you had to be like that is Aiden, right? Is trying to be super cool and shit, and is just like trying to be like, it's almost like he's resentful that you're leading the way and is trying to like one up you in the way kids do. So he's like trying to forge ahead and doing so at the expense of where other people might be stepping, like in like when Kit goes to step in some place that might be like a good foothold on the top of this train, which I imagine has like, you know, like a whole bunch of different things on the top of it, like little lights and all that kind of stuff. And you're sort of using that as like footholds as you're like forging ahead. And of course the train's like whipping around and like it's not just straight, right? It's like going through curves and stuff like that. So it looks cool in the anime. But Aiden is being a dick. He was probably like in the middle of all of this kind of stuff. And so what happens is he you're about to step on like one of these footholds that's like maybe a light or a siren or something like that, and Aiden's foot like crunches in on yours, and there's a chance that it will be harder for the other people to forge ahead because he's taking up like all the spots that everybody else might need. And you're vulnerable in that you're looking out for everybody at the same time. So I think the ultimate decision, though, is you have to decide if you're going to be looking out particularly for Aiden, who's being like a dick and trying to forge ahead, or everybody else. Like, are you helping everybody else reach other footholds behind, or looking out for Aiden, who's doing what Aiden does?
So I'm risking either Aiden's harm or everyone else's harm.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I was trying to do that in fiction, but it didn't sound very good.
Okay.
At a meta level, that's what it is, though, yes.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to break the fiction, but...
No.
Make sure I understood the consequences.
Totally. That is a fair thing.
So... I think Aiden distracts me from taking care of everybody else because we're about to go into a tunnel and they've turned around to look like they're the badass or whatever, and they don't see the top of the tunnel coming.
Right. So there's probably like those lights at the top always, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of jump and try to knock him down so that he doesn't get hit by the tunnel, but that leaves everybody else vulnerable.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. Let's see. What would be the best way to handle that mechanically? I think let's get everybody else who isn't Aiden then to rise to the moment, I think. So everybody else, you see Aiden kind of crumple to the ground just in time, probably, right? As your friend jumps on them, and then you're in complete darkness, right? Trying to negotiate the top of this train. And I think the only things that you can kind of see now are just the like small reflections and the little grip holds at the top of the train that you're trying to negotiate as you go forward. So it's probably like a, harrowing scene. So let's see. Let me try to get your guys' characters' names correct. So Jackson, what are you afraid of in this moment?
I think I'm afraid I'll be left behind.
Oh, okay. I like that a lot. Cool. So get that roll on the table.
Yeah. I'm looking at my things. I think I'm just going to put the one die in it and fail. Okay. I want to see how failure works here.
Okay, sounds good. And what about Kit? What are you worried of as this happens? Darkness has enveloped you.
I think injuring myself with my cello exam coming up.
You're like, so all this shit is happening, and it's like the train's going through a tunnel, and in your head you're like, I might not be able to make that concert.
Yeah, if I get hurt, I can't play music.
Yeah.
I break my arm or something. That'd be
Sweet.
awful.
And what about for your role? What do you want to take?
Oh shoot, where am I? Oh, there I am.
I like your picture too. Everyone's pictures are great. I like that people added all their stuff.
I don't know if any of my decks apply.
Really?
Maybe
Let's see. Well, you're flexible, right?
yeah.
Audacious. I mean, you're not being normal.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah. I'm being quite audacious, I suppose. Yeah.
I think this is also being nosy. You're checking out some place that you're not supposed to be.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe I tag a couple of things.
Yeah, I think it's at least 2d6 there.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, nosy, audacious.
Cool.
Sure. Yeah, I'll roll those two.
Cool. And then what about Laszlo? What's going through your brain?
So Laszlo, as we get up here, like, it's way louder and windier and less stable than he was pretty sure it was going to be, but still not willing to look bad in front of these people. So, like, as the two of them are jumping on top of each other up front, Laszlo is like pulling out his headphones and slipping them on, and there's just this like quiet that comes over, and then sort of the beginning of music starting up, and it's like these cello and violin lines that are sampled and looped on top of each other, and he just like starts calmly, hands in his pockets, sort of dancing and twirling forward through the tunnel along the top here, just obviously perfectly avoiding all of the lights and not looking like an idiot or losing his headphones, which I think might be the fear that like they get hung on something and ripped away.
I love what people are worried about in this scene. It's so cool. Okay. Sounds good. Okay, and so what are you taking?
Insular and secure?
Yes. That sounds good.
Cool.
Lauren, what did you get?
I rolled a 4.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I rolled an 11.
Nice. So that's good. Cool. Let's handle yours first then, because on a 10 plus, when you're rising to the moment, you describe how you step up and surmount the challenge and gain an insight. Ask the MC any one question about the situation. Take +1 forward when acting on that information.
So I think it does look like him just very calmly, hands in his pocket, sort of shuffling forward and doing a slightly dramatic spin out of the way right when some of the lights are coming up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Give me a sec to think about the question.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So Kit and Jackson, I think what happens is, let's see. Let me just pull up a page here. Where is it? Oh. So I think the first thing that happens is we hear sort of like the power lines buzzing. They're getting louder, or at least it feels like it's louder in the anime. They were probably there the whole time, but they kind of like grow in dominance over what the audience can see on the TV. And what you all hear in the fiction and then you hear like the grinding of the hamster wheels in the distance, like beyond the tunnels, right? Because the wheels are always squeaking, or at least that's what it feels like. They squeak very loudly now, though, and in conjunction with the buzzing power lines. And then I think, Kit, you see like a pair of like white eyes in front of you in the darkness. And there's kind of like an outline of a person there. And suddenly the power lines and the squeaking and stuff like that, it just sort of like it doesn't drown away, but it does that like very sudden cut, as if it's like no longer there at all, like they do in the movies. And as soon as that happens, you feel like your hand sort of like tense up as another sort of like formless thing grips it and touches your hand. And then we'll cut to Jackson. Jackson, what were you afraid of again?
Being left behind.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to see how auto failure works in the system and if it will be satisfying. Also, I like the idea of, holy shit, I got left behind in this tunnel. Or
Yeah.
wherever I'm left behind.
Yeah, so I think what happens for you is that the same sort of thing with the power lines being really loud happens, and you hear the squeaking and stuff like that. And then for you, what happens is, like, instead of it being completely dark with the white eye outline stuff for Kit, it almost feels like the train goes by the tunnel super fast. Like you can kind of see like the white outline beyond you of where the tunnel just went through, or where the train just went through the tunnel, and it was like rapidly going away. But instead, it like zooms towards you as if it's like sort of rewinding time. And suddenly everybody is like illuminated. It's not like you're in the tunnel anymore, except everybody around you is like freeze framed and not moving whatsoever. So it's like time has stopped completely for you. And more importantly, as well as for Kit, there's nobody in front of you. Like what I described with Kit's happening is not what you see. Kit just looks like they're freeze framed and moving forward just like everybody else. But as you look forward, it's in that freeze framed moment you see, let me learn, Felix crumpled on the ground with Aiden, and Aiden is not frozen in this moment. He's the only one that's sort of like unlocked in this time with you, and he makes eye contact with you, and his eyes go completely dark. And I think you take 3 distress, unless you want to repress that. So the way it works is you can either accept the distress or you can say no, and you bury it in a repression. So you instead take no distress and then add a bad repressed trait. And that is sort of like the abstraction of you burying it there. But at a player level is when you have 3 of those, you can no longer deflect and bury the distress any longer, and you would turn into a robot, right? Like there's no more burying it anymore. And that is bad because when you transform and something's repressed in the bad traits, when you turn into a robot, that stuff escapes. And the more things you have, the more powerful that thing is, that entity, whatever it is, as well.
Nope, I'm taking the distress.
Okay, sounds good. So you're one away from turning, I think, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Would the bad trait, like, does taking 1 bad trait cover any amount of incoming distress, or would he have had to take him like 3 bad traits?
It would have had to have been 3 bad traits.
Woof.
Yeah. So like 1 for every point of distress is what
Cool.
I should have said. Yeah. Cool. So how does that make you feel? Like what is Aiden's black eyes looking at you while everybody else is frozen? What runs through Jackson's mind in this moment?
Well, I already think that Aiden is a monster. This is making me think I'm a monster too, because we're the only two people who seem to be unaffected by this.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think, yeah, I'm distressed that I might be the same as Aiden, who I already think is a monster.
Cool. And then we do like a jump cut back to Kit where suddenly it's all black instead of in the white / all the light where you were. And everybody's frozen. For you, you just can't see anything. Something touches your arm. And I think similarly, you would take 2 distress unless you want to bury that.
Oh. No, I'll take it. Yeah, I'll
Can she
take it.
split it? Can she take 1 distress and 1 repression?
Totally. Yeah, you could do that.
Oh yeah, then I'll totally split it.
Okay, so you'll
I'll do
take
1 and
1
1.
distress and 1. So what is
Yeah.
what do you abstract the rest of this distress into for a bad trait?
Oh. Well, I think like when she sees eyes and like feels someone touch her, her immediate thought, irrational as it is like to Fleur. And that like this is Fleur for some reason. So the trait's probably going to relate to like either like her having hallucinations or being a bit like unbalanced or like some sad feelings to do with Fleur anyway.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. And then as we go back to Laszlo, for you, it's the same thing. You or not the same thing. Sorry. So for you, you see Kit acting quite strangely. Like instead of pressing forward, they're sort of like frozen, right? Maybe with a little tinge of fear, I would say. And then similarly, Jackson maybe has like a similar thing going on too, where instead of moving forward, they're just sort of like frozen in frightish type stuff, right? So did you have a question or anything about the scene?
Yeah. So I think I'm more focused on Kit, just because I'm sort of peacocking for her right now. Like she's obviously following me, sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, I see this look on her face. Like, what do I think has scared her so much?
It's interesting. Maybe I'll let Kit answer that, and then you'll take the +1 forward. Still.
She's probably like she's probably really feeling like that like abandoned quality about her. And I feel like she's in this moment not feeling particularly audacious. Like she's feeling trapped and frozen and alone.
Okay.
And she has like she definitely has like the creepy like wide-eyed anime horror eyes going where they're like pinpoint eyes.
Do you have do you say Fleur? Like, is it that inaudible like anime moment where you don't say it
zooms in on the lips?
Yes, it zooms in on the lips. Yeah, totally. Yeah. 1,000,000%.
Yeah, I think what I interpret is I see her like freaking out and getting scared by this tunnel and the whole train ride and everything, and maybe I shouldn't have goaded her into coming up here, but I can still fix this because I'm being super cool. So I sort of twirl up and try and sweep her in a bit of a like ballroom dancing catch and spin her sort of out of where she's looking on this horror and like dance her along with me on the top of the train.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So
That's so perfect because I I feel like my substitute move triggers.
oh, what's that?
So let me pull it up. You had a relationship with someone who has recently left. When you project this relationship onto someone else, give them a label to represent it. You can appear where they are, with or without explanation. You may move this label onto someone else instead of a session.
Interesting.
And I kind of feel like this is like a duet, like tangent, kind of like two-person thing, which was like totally what Fleur and I had. Like she was my accompanist on like the piano, where we were like also a duet. So I feel like, yeah, I'm fully labeling you in that capacity.
Nice.
Cool.
If that's fine.
Yeah. No, what do you think the label would be?
I feel like I was trying to like Google stuff for like duet or harmony or like that, or some kind of like one to twin power. Like we can do everything together.
Like in step or perfect partner or something like that.
Oh yeah,
Matched pair.
Matched pair.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so I'll label you matched pair.
Cool. So I have a question. With what you're doing, do you think you're rising to the moment in this, or are you trying to get your way, especially if you're peacocking?
Let me get your way. Ooh, I think I'm trying to get my way.
Yeah. That's good.
Those options are great.
So what are you taking in the role?
I can't tag Insular this time, so I think it's experimental and matched pair. And I think I'll give her like a cocky half smile and throw in jovial as well.
Okay.
So. Oh.
What?
That's a 3.
Oh, wow. Cool. Okay, so interesting.
This is not going great.
So you guys, so what you were trying to do was kind of sweep her up and kind of like shake her out of her reverie, but be cool about it.
Yeah, in character, I'm trying to take her along the same path I am and keep her from being afraid of the thing. Like meta level, I'm trying to like sweep her away from whatever this thing is that's got a grip on her.
Interesting.
Maybe you have to go into the train car. Maybe you can't follow along anymore.
Well, that would be good, but I'm trying to make it so that everyone has to fight together. Just to try to see if that move actually works. So I think instead what happens... Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think what instead happens is we make like a jump cut to Felix and Aiden. So you had like basically made it so he narrowly didn't get beamed in the head, right? Like you jumped on him right in time, and he probably wasn't even aware of it. He was probably like looking back at you and looking all like cocky and shit like that, right? And then you were like,
that's exactly how I imagined it. Yep.
Yeah. So I think what happens though is Aiden gets like angry, and you can tell he's embarrassed. He kind of like shoves you off of him, and then as he like sits up, he sees Laszlo and Kit kind of like locked into an embrace, and his face gets like even redder. And there's sort of like a, not in the same way that there's the power line static, but there's like the sound like when one of your internal ear hairs dies, like this scree kind of sound, in your ear. That happens instead, and his eyes gets like really big, and that's when like another tunnel happens, like the darkness envelops y'all again, and you hear like the sound of screeching metal and like a weight, like the sound when you drop a dumbbell in the gym on the ground from like a where you shouldn't have, basically, right? Like it's a bad sound. And that's when we'll go to break.
Quick question that was in the chat. Do we also get XP on failures for the game, or is it only the end of game questions?
Yeah, I was toying with that. I think get XP on failures. Let me double check. Yeah, well, it says when you fail or when you internalize how you choose to grow up, mark XP. So definitely do that. Y'all are kids and you're learning good. So let's come back at 10 after. Does that sound good to people? Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Cool. So we are back. Let's see.
I forgot to say that when Substitute kicked off, there was for sure that slow motion like anime like bubble thing going on.
The bubble thing?
Like is there a better way to describe that? Like, you know, when there's like that like doki doki like
I'm looking for a picture of it.
oh thanks. When like Laszlo grabs like Kit and Kit like has the like freeze frame like doki doki like blush moment. I can't remember.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
do you mean like where their face goes red with the lines, whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this anime bubble. So I'll try and
Anime bubbles.
I love how like cool and dramatic and slow-mo the approach was, and then 3.
Love bubble. Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever noticed that. And it's a TV trope, so it's definitely a thing.
yeah, I'm not just making it.
Yeah, that's funny. I've never noticed that when they're doing that. There's bubbles around them. Interesting. Cool. So let's see. Yeah, so the creepy things happen. And then I think even like down the train in the darkness, you feel something happening, like everybody does, because the ground gets sort of like weighted and heavy, so you sort of innately start whatchamacallit, like sliding towards the center of gravity, which is further up where that kid was. And Aiden is. And the hamster wheel screeching gets like intense, and it gets louder and louder and louder and louder in your ears, and then suddenly it stops. You get through the tunnel, you see the light, but where Aiden was instead is a monstrosity. It looks like, let me see. It looks like a giant metal black ball with like the weird, you know how whenever anybody draws a bowling ball, they put that little glint of light in the top left corner? Yeah, like that's there. It looks sort of like almost fetal-like it's kind of like a small figure in the center of this bowling ball, like it's outlined for you, clutching in on themselves as if they're like almost like in Oliver's picture, where he's sort of like insulated himself in and like like protecting his own self. It almost seems like Aiden is at the center of this black bowling ball type thing, and that is below it. You can see that this bowling ball is like quite heavy and has crushed the ground and is seeming to like gather weight. And that is why everyone's sliding towards him, because he's like crushing the ground and making this force. And so I think if people don't want to take distress, they'll have to resist this because it's fucked up. So let me see how to best engage with that in the mechanics here.
Reject conformity?
Yeah. Well... yeah, I think so. Like, it's kind of the keep your cool thing. I think that's better than rise to the moment in this one. This is just to keep your shit. So yeah, I think so. So people will have to reject conformity, I think. Unless you want to take distress. I think... we'll say... another 3 distress, I think, if you don't resist.
Not that I'm planning on forcing another fail right here, but what happens if you take distress over the overflow limit? Do you have to take the rest as repressed traits then?
No, you just have to transform, I think. I don't think
Okay.
I'll make it go into repressed traits, because that would be really intense in a moment like this when you're probably going to need to battle something, because then your own repressed stuff is going to be unleashed at the same moment that you're trying to combat something else.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be intense. So no, we won't do that. So, Patrick, let's start with you. What does Jackson feel looking at this? Like, what's going through Jackson's mind right now?
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, did you want to ask Jackson or Laszlo? Because Patrick plays Laszlo.
Oh, sorry, Laszlo.
Yeah. So I think he like this is so far beyond. We were just climbing up on a train car to spray paint some stuff, and this is the first indication that Laszlo's gotten of anything hinky going on here. Like the others have at least had warnings and strange eyes in the night and shit like that. So I think he's just like he sort of kneels down on the ground, closes his eyes, and is just like holding the headphones to his head. And I don't know if that would be a roll on a reject conformity or just go straight into the pause move that I have.
What does pause say?
I have my item that allows me to shut out the world and hear music. When you put them on, you cannot take distress when you would instead give yourself a label abstracting the distress. And then when I take basically 4 labels that way, I'm going to overflow as soon as I take off the headphones.
Cool. Yeah. So you would just abstract it into 1 label instead of taking 3 as well.
Oh, okay. So it's not gonna. It wouldn't work like the repressed traits.
No, because the move is like you're putting. Let's see. You cannot take distress when you would instead give yourself a label abstracting the distress. Then you would take.
I just when you're talking about like repressing distress into repressed traits, it was like 1 per. So I wasn't sure if that was the same with the labels or not.
Oh yeah, I think what I had in mind with this one is that you're taking a lot of damage and abstracting it into 1. So that's why it's like better than other people just being able to repress the stuff. But then when you take off your headphones, then you have to overflow anyway, right?
If I would take enough distress to overflow, so should I 1 label, but remember that it's covering 3 distress, and 1 more distress worth of stuff will put me in that overage?
No, I think it abstracts the 3 to 1.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see how that plays out, and if it's satisfying, we'll change it. But for now, that's where I think we'll go with it.
I mean, the other thing is it's a label which is active versus a repressed trait which is just waiting to strike.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like denying or self-blinding or something like that. I can't quite think of a good phrase. Like hiding his head in the sand.
Everything is fine.
I don't know. Would head in the sand be fine as a label?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a perfect 1-word thing every single time. That would be tough. Cool. So what about Felix? You had just saved this kid and now this is happening. Did you make the connection that most likely why he was pissed and took distress basically was because he saw like Kit and Laszlo together? Or did that go over Felix's head?
I think, yeah, I think he figured it out. I don't think he recognized it immediately, but like he turned back to see what Aiden was staring at, and then when he turned back to look at Aiden, then he started turning into this giant ball or whatever. So the choice is take distress or take repressed traits. Is that right?
So you could accept the distress and then deal with it by repressing it, or just accept the distress and just like take it on your track, or you could try to not get distress at all and reject conformity.
Okay. I'll try to reject conformity then.
Cool. And it's also a moment where you can shed a label if you roll well enough on the move as well.
Oh, okay.
Just an opportunity if you have something that you don't like from somebody else or something.
So I'm selfish. And I think like I don't care about Aiden's feelings for Laszlo or Kit or both of them. I'm not sure what Aiden was exactly wanting there. I'm not going to presume. But being selfish, I don't care about Aiden's feelings in this moment. And like maybe resisting this kind of craziness is part of being untapped. Maybe that's the thing that hasn't been tapped into yet.
Ooh.
So selfish and untapped, give me my dice. And I think I'm stern in this situation. So 2d6 plus 1.
Cool.
So that would be an 8.
Cool. So 7 and 9, you don't come across as you hoped, but you choose one. You can shed a label. If they haven't given you a label, you give them one. And reminder, Aiden has monstrous, which is at a meta level, he might be playing towards. You don't take distress, or you take +1 forward.
So I think what I say to Aiden is something like, you know, I say, there's no way that you're ever going to be with Kit. She's completely unavailable to anyone. And like and Laszlo's inside of his own world. So quit moping over them, you loser. And I give him the loser label.
Okay. Snap. Okay. So he's got monstrous and loser.
And
No.
I'm sure that there's something we can do with pulling on his labels. So it sounds like I take distress then.
Yeah, so you do take the distress, which was 3, but you can still choose to put some in repression or not.
Okay.
You were at full, right?
Uh,
Like you hadn't taken damage previous?
yeah. I haven't taken any damage. So I think I'll take 2 distressed, and I think I do recognize part of myself in what Aiden's feeling, and I'll take a trait of like wrong attraction.
Oh, cool. I like that. Cool. Yeah, and so when you take advantage of a label, you can do a bunch of stuff. So I just put in the chat that Aiden is monstrous and apparently a loser now. So if you want to play into that, then that will help you, because you can use that to increase your die result, like get a +1 towards them if you play into them. So Kit, what are you feeling? Did you notice that? Like, were you paying attention to Laszlo, or did you see that look on Aiden's face when he turned into a black ball of fetal repression?
No, I was way too busy with I was way too busy with the love bubbles to pay attention to what Aiden's feeling.
Yeah, cool. So as you see what's happening now, what do you feel? What's going through your mind?
Well, I think like she sees Laszlo like burying his head in the sand and just like completely removing himself from the situation. And I think like having just like felt this connection with another human being where like the two of them were so in sync, even if just for like a moment, she's actually feeling quite like empowered and protective to like stand up for Laszlo and actually like take like and actually kind of lead rather than just follow for once, because she has the strength of another person there to booster it.
Cool.
Nice.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so are you gonna reject conformity? Are you gonna take it or what?
I think,
And I'll probably reword reject conformity instead of like make it like buck. I don't know what the wording will be, but make it so it can apply to this situation a little bit better or more intuitively anyway.
yeah, I think I'm gonna reject conformity
Cool.
because like everyone keeps labeling her as like unavailable and like abandoned and isolated and shit, and that's just not true.
Cool. And if you play into Aiden being monstrous or a loser, then you can get +1 to your roll as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, like, he's a super monster. He's gonna try and hurt Laszlo. He's gonna try and hurt my friends.
So do you say like, get away from him, you monster, or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Yeah.
Cool. Does Kit even make the connection that this thing is Aiden?
I don't probably. Oh, if she missed like Aiden sort of like transforming into it, but maybe she missed that completely.
Right.
But this is still like a huge, massive monster.
I like that, because if it is so that he has a crush on you or something like that, and then got really angry and transformed, then it's like an indirect slight, right? Where you're like, don't even know it's him, and you're just like, you monster.
Yeah, totally. And then just wait till next episode where I move my matched pair label onto Aiden.
Okay, cool.
I'm pretty much just trying to play out the plot of Boys Over Flowers, if anyone's seen that.
I have not, but I think this is cool. Cool. So what are you tagging for your roll? And then you get a plus.
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm tagging a lot here. Can I tag stuff in the ante? Like if I'm sort of like trying to shake off being, I guess not.
From what? Sorry?
Because it's like she's got labels of like unavailable and abandoned, but I'm guessing you can't like tap into them for their inverse. Like I'm trying to not be unavailable. I'm trying to not be abandoned. Therefore, I get the plus, if that makes sense.
No, you would do it. Yeah, you'd be invoking them instead of shirking them.
Yeah. So I think she's she's probably feeling like pretty flexible and audacious by sort of coming out of her shell a bit and acting out on her own volition, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So go with Patrick.
I was just gonna say, so would that be a 1d6 roll? Do you have to get both a trait and a label to get the 2d6, or how does that work?
Yeah, you need to get a trait and a label.
Oh, I see. So that'd be 1d6.
Yeah, but you can get bonuses to your 1d6 if you
can be a d6 plus 2 right now.
Yeah, so maybe it's even like maybe she taps into loser as well with something of like, no, I don't even love you as well. It's like
Well, I think you're basically doing it by defending the person that you're choosing over Aiden.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're continuing the slight even if you don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah. So I guess I'll roll 1d6 plus 2, right?
I think you're up to +3.
3, yeah.
Oh shit. Okay. I'm just gonna delete.
Yeah, you have your excess trait and then both of his labels.
Oh, nice. I got a 5 on the dice plus 3. 8.
Yeah, cool. So you don't come across as you hoped, and you choose one of those things.
Oh, nice. I guess I'll choose not to take distress.
Cool. Yeah, it kind of seems like that's what you're doing in the scene too, right? Because you're already like, you don't seem that afraid of the giant mad baby, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're like calling it a loser and stuff. So I think that makes sense. Cool. What about Jackson? What's going through Jackson's head?
I think Jackson is getting angry because, once again, Aiden is damaging the train.
Oh yeah, that's true. It is pretty fucked up at the moment.
So I think I'm going to be eccentric and childish, but also play into Jackson's monstrosity. Basically like, you just ruined everything. And yeah, I'm yelling at the giant orb is effectively what I'm doing.
Cool. I hope you get some catharsis, Jackson.
That is an 8.
Cool.
Fuck it, let's pile on some labels on Aiden. I think I'm going to call him worthless.
Oh shit. Okay. He's having a rough day.
That is like the last thing I say before things kind of go to shit.
Yeah. Okay. So you are taking the distress, right?
Yes, which is going to get me to overflow.
Cool. Okay. So overflow means that you do the transform move on page 5. So when you overflow, you immediately transform into a robot that embodies the good things you've repressed and your traits. Add them to create your harm track as a robot. When you're a robot, you take harm instead of distress. But it's really bad if you get fucked up as a robot and have to revert to a human / your harm track is filled up. Because you create a bad trait that sort of abstracts the entire experience for you. And you take a powerful blow, which is bad.
So I'm going to start off with only having one harm as a robot. Is that right, or
the good things you repress? No, because you have everyone starts with at least 2 traits, right?
Okay, so the traits count. It's your traits plus your good repressed traits.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what would that make it? 3?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. And then, so what does this transformation look like? And is this slowly happening as you're calling a thing merciless?
Yeah, I think as I'm yelling, I'm turning into this robot. And I'll be honest, I've already been, I already did some research into what I think Jackson looks like as a robot.
I'm sure you did, considering both your wishes were like, I want to be a robot.
It may have been important. Didn't quite get this in a easily shareable format though. So yeah, I think as I'm yelling at him, it's like my arm starts like turning into this odd little foot, and I'm just like yelling, and more just like turns into this red metal, until eventually I just become this quadrupedal. Let's see. Okay, so I dropped it in the in this shared folder because I'm not sure entirely what the best way to share that was.
Oh, interesting. So you're, yeah, that is hard to describe.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's kind of this four-legged with a tail coming off the back of the torso, but comes back up and is the head with two little grabber arms.
interesting. It almost looks like where the head and the grabber arms is that might, like, it, if it almost looks like that's you. Right? Like it almost looks like a human kind of with like a helmet on ish almost, but like all weird and stuff. So are you within that main body thing? Like the back part, is that sort of like your back legs?
Yeah, I think I like slowly like piece by piece turn into it. So like the head is the little, so my head turns into the little thing with the grabbers. My torso turns into like the big bulky part, and my arms turn into each part. So it's like my neck kind of like extends and folds out the backside of my torso and then curves back up.
Dang. Okay, cool. This is definitely an FLCL scene. You're like, what? Cool. Awesome. So do you have anything that you want to share about like why Jackson looks like that and stuff like that, or like is there anything about the repressed stuff or how Jackson is that is being like on display with this thing at all?
Yeah.
Or?
So it definitely it's a very confused design. And that very much encompasses Jackson. But at the same time, everything about the design looks sturdy and like if it ever found its purpose, it's going to do that purpose well. But it's really confusing what that purpose is. So
Cool. Yeah, I like that. Sweet. And then how Kit and Felix, how you come across poorly, I think, is after you say those things, especially after being labeled a loser and worthless and stuff, is I think the fetal form of what we know as on a meta level 8 and sort of like shrinks further in, and there's sort of like a mechanical sound that emits from it very loudly that is like as if a boy was crying, but like mechanized, right? So you come across poorly. Cool. Okay, so now I'm just going to pull the table, I think. So everyone has either taken their distress or changed or etc. with that. But what does Jackson in robot form plan to do now?
Well, I mean, it feels like this is the scene, like the scene in the anime where the music changes and we get into like the big robot fight. So
Yeah.
like the music changes from like dark and spooky to like kind of that more like upbeat like actiony heroics thing where we get to see it on display. It happens all the time in Fooly Cooly, like where what's his name just like is like, I'm gonna stand up for myself, and then gets swallowed by the robot, and the robot fights the battle. So that's what I was angling towards.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just see what everybody's doing, and then we can all aim towards building the scene from there. So, what is Kit going to do? And it's fine even just to say watch, right? I just want to see if anybody wants to interact with the scene beyond the giant robot fight. Lauren, you were muted.
Yeah, what's like our options? Like, can we kind of do the FLCL? Like, I'm gonna use like materialize my cello and like beat the shit out of this thing, or like
you could lash out even in like your normal form.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
just windmill punch it, I guess. Yeah,
and you could easily, like, we're in the fiction, remember, we're going for a sort of like a absurdism aesthetic, so that could definitely be a thing. Also, like in terms of the anime aesthetic, we saw that you had the cello on the thing before, so it would be almost like a comedic point in the anime if you were to just like have the cello and then just like whip it out of the box and then use it to like fight the thing too, right? So whatever you think would be.
Cool. Is that on tone? Is everyone fine with that tone if I do that?
Oh yeah, I think it's pretty gonzo AF. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like the tone that I was going for is I want to have sometimes like the poignant kid being like messed up and trying to like express their feelings and stuff like that, and then the giant robot stuff. So within there we have a large array of
yeah, sorry. I can't believe I just asked, is it on tone if I do this? Like in a game it's about like kids becoming robots.
Well, no, that's fine. It's good to check in.
Yeah, in that case, yeah, I mean, and if she does that visually, like I like to think there's, and oh god, sorry, this is getting to for Kit and Lauren crossover. But like my cello case had like a handle on the top and like a handle on the side and stuff, so you could sort of like wield the actual case and as like a club, kind of like, yeah.
I like how mini Lauren was just like, I could really fuck somebody up with this.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So is your goal as Kit though is to lash out?
Yeah.
Cool. And then what about Felix?
Well, I don't want to take away from Kit's attack, and I don't want to, like, I don't want to, I think the spotlight's firmly set in my mind. Like, as a player, I'm like, imagining just being, in awe at the opposite side of Aiden from everybody else. And so I'm cool with just observing for now.
Okay. Another thing that you could be doing at the same time then is shaping the world. Like maybe you want to add a detail or get a detail or something like that if you still want to do
Okay.
something.
I have a detail that I'd like to have happen. So,
Sure. Yeah.
so okay. So, I'd like to notice something specific about Aiden.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, you can make that roll if you like. Let me just check it with Patrick first, though.
Okay.
And then we'll fire all of this stuff off. So Laszlo, what up?
So I think it'd be interesting since I was there, like huddled on the ground and eyes closed and hiding, and Kit was there. I think she like puts a hand on my shoulder, and it sort of calls me out of it. You know, there's a brief refresh of the love bubbles that sort of obscure the scene for a minute, but we clear them out of the way. And as I see her like grabbing up her cello and going into the like low camera angle, sort of very sharp relief, like she's gonna take this instrument that I know is very precious to her and is so heavy, but she lugs it around everywhere anyways, and go in and fight this giant bowling ball monster. Okay, we'll deal with that later. I think it sort of inspires me, and I like whip my backpack around, and there were some records that I was going to take by the record store after school and like trade in for new ones, and I sort of like cringe as I'm unzipping my backpack, but I pull out one in either hand, and I'm planning to like back her up throwing vinyl records Ninja Star style.
Okay, awesome. So you're mechanically you're wanting to lash out as well.
Lash out or assist her, however that would work.
Assisting would probably be reinforcing a label that she has for the help or hinder role. I think that's the only way I have helping or hindering right now.
Sorry, my computer froze up for a moment there. What'd you say?
Oh, I think the only thing that I have right now, at least for help or hinder, is to use somebody's label and like reinforce it.
Okay.
Yeah. She could reinforce one of her labels to give her the +1.
Ooh. No, I don't think any of those work at all.
Yeah. I wonder. It also could be get your way. Because then you could give her a label that she could use in combat. Possibly.
You could also reinforce unavailable because like this, like I look super unavailable to Aiden now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about turning it that way. Yeah, so as we come in as a pair, like this makes her look even more unavailable to him.
That's
I like
true.
that.
That's definitely true.
Ooh, good thinking, Lauren.
Sometimes I have good ideas, not often, but sometimes.
So yeah, I'll give you a +1 to your roll.
So help and hinder is under the using a label
Yeah.
section. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we'd already covered that. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, that's how I have it so far. We might have to evolve that into other things, but for now, that's how I have it in sort of... I'm still trying to come up with a good PBTA help hinder role, and at least this way I get some good fiction out of it and people can't spam it. It will probably evolve over time to something else, but for now, that's what I have for it. I think first, though, let's go to Felix adding a detail, possibly. And then we will go from there. So what did you want to tag in this role?
Let's see here. Shape the world. I keep looking to find out what dice to roll, and it's not that way that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, it might be good to verbalize it. Yeah. So when you want to express your inner thoughts and feelings, roll. The MC might ask you how you know this or gain that knowledge. On a hit, you either learn or add a new detail about the world, depending on the scope of the detail you wish to add. 10+, you may ask a follow-up question. 7 to 9, the MC chooses one, and there's some bad things.
So I imagine right now that I have that the manga of this has me like looking at the bowling ball and understanding its statistics and stuff like that, like level 28 monster and
yeah, especially Scott Pilgrim style, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm scanning for that weakness. which I have in mind if I'm successful with the roll. So my trait is obsessed, and since this kind of involves the vampire-ish part of me, I'm going to go with morbid.
Oh yeah.
And
here's a question too. Does it display any of your statistics with this Scott Pilgrim thing?
sure. Well,
does it say like level 90 died or something like that? Because you're like
no. I'm like so like I look so like everybody has like a level, whatever it is, like say level 6 or something like that, and my level is adjusted because of my disease. So I've been like, you know, level drained, I think is what it says.
Oh.
So I'm actually quite weak.
Mm.
And you know, it shows my stained and wrong attraction, repressed, you know, feelings and stuff like that, and it shows like the brave stat that's still locked up that I can't get access to because
Yeah.
I haven't transformed, so it shows the big lock on it and stuff like that. And so yeah, like I've been level drained because of that that disease I have,
Mhm.
and so I'm obsessed and morbid, and um, I'll go with untapped again.
Cool.
And so that gives me 2d6 plus 1, and I will reroll selected. I have an 8.
Cool. So MC chooses one. On a hit, you either learn or add a new detail about the world. So what is it that you want to add?
So this is if you know what you're doing, this bowling ball is less the strength of a bowling ball and more the strength of like an egg yolk or a womb, and you can like stick your arms in it and rip out like material.
Interesting. Cool. That's cool. So, and then on a 7 and 9, it's sort of like a thing that I show in the fiction, but I choose one thing and I can choose the detail has as yet unforeseen implications returning later. It reveals or places someone in danger right now, or it is co-opted by the grown-up world. So I will keep that in mind as the fiction progresses. So David, do you is that something that you want to do right now or a future goal for turning into a robot?
For the instrument thing, I'm not sure. I figured we'd play out the fight scene a little bit, and you know, if it felt appropriate, that might be how we fight together.
Right.
You know, because you know, usually these fights like end when there's like multiple people, like everyone tries to fight on their own, and it kind of is effective, and then all of a sudden everyone like comes up with this big like combo maneuver, and
Right. Well, let's see. Let me see if fight together makes sense in this context. I think I was going to fire off people's individual moves and handle it in the fiction because fight together is more like everyone's a robot and on the same kind of equal playing field, essentially. So let me just reread this real quick and see if it makes sense to test out this move or not in this context. Oh yeah. I think yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think we could actually do that. That's neat. So, okay, so if everyone wants to go to the page 5 now and do the fight together move. So this, you will notice, is a weird move that I'm testing out. So basically what happens is I use the particular traits and stats of the creature that I have here to roll in secret like a target number that you need to match to enable to be able to like hit the creature and deal damage and stuff like that, right? But let's see. The way that you work together as a team in order to hit the thing is you guys can roll and then take your rolls and combine them and share them. So, for instance, let's say Lauren has like a 6 and somebody else is attacking, rolls a 4. Those two characters could combine their 6 and a 4 to make a 10 and try to hit the target number that I've rolled in the fight. The only thing is that I like fight together to have all of the characters in on it. That's kind of like what it's made for, is so that every that has everybody on the same page doing the same, like the D&D thing makes sense sometimes because everybody's doing separate attacks.
Fraser, you're like, was Fraser freezing up for other people too?
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I guess 300 isn't enough.
Yeah. Whatever. Maybe it's just Hangouts. Yeah, so I think fight together won't make sense too much though, because basically fight together makes it is only applicable if everybody is doing the same thing, because the purpose of the move is to leave nobody out. Can everybody hear me still?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because Lauren is like, I don't know, she was looking like maybe she couldn't hear me. So let's not do fight together. We'll just handle everybody's separate roles, because if you do fight together, basically everybody else is sort of like out of the scene, right? So since 2 people aren't in the fight and 2 people are, let's just handle it with lash outs and fight alone and stuff like that. Does that sound good?
Well,
Okay.
I was planning on being in the fight, but yeah. Like, I've got the detail I wanted to be able to interact with the fight.
Okay.
But anyway,
Yeah.
whatever works. Whatever works.
Yeah, we haven't tested out the other ones anyway, so I'm perfectly happy doing firing off the other moves, and then we can deal with the other thing when everybody's a robot or whatever.
Okay.
So, okay, so I think let's situate ourselves in the fiction again. So, okay, so Jackson, what is it that you wanted to do in the fiction now?
Yeah, so Jackson, Jackson being angry at Aiden is what caused him to transform. So this feels like a lash out then. I think, I think like the robot is taking some like experimental steps and like not sure what to do, and then all of a sudden just like does a quick turn and whips the head at into Aiden, and that's how it's going to lash out.
Oh, the head is smashing into Aiden?
Yeah, like it's like whipping like a giraffe's head.
Cool. I like that a lot. Okay, so I think you're lashing out.
Yeah.
Your brain, apparently.
So I think this is eccentric, loner, and skills.
Skills. I like that.
And I'm going to I think I'm going to tag Aiden's worthless and loser.
How are you doing that? Like in the fiction, what do we see to take those things?
So yeah, I think it's like kind of a dismissive swatting away of Aiden. And that's kind of yeah, basically his presence is offensive to Jackson, so he's just like being swatted away as this useless loser that isn't worth our time.
Wow. Okay, rough. So why does Jackson do him like that?
Because all Aiden ever does is like destroy things. Like he was damaging the lock and the train, and he's just being whiny over I don't even know what.
I like how you're still stuck on that lock. Cool. Okay, sweet. So what does that give you for your
I think that's +3.
Cool. That's pretty good then. You have a high chance of lashing out.
Yeah, that's an 11.
Cool. So you may inflict up to any amount of distress as the number of traits and labels invoked in your roll. Cool. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So distress is the number of traits and labels. That was 5, was it? Right?
Yeah.
Cool. Let me just get a notepad up here.
I'm not really sure what that means for an NPC.
Yeah. Very repressed. As well for me. Cool. Let me just write real quick. Cool. And the goal was to like dismissively swat him away, right?
Yeah, get him off the train.
Oh, what was that? Sorry.
It's a gesture of just like trying to swat him off the train.
Yeah. Right. So I think what happens is you try to do that, right? Like you smash into the bowling ball, but I think you've underestimated the fact that his sort of like mecha power or whatever is that he's very heavy, right? Like he's actually growing in mass as this is happening, not in terms of height and weight or whatever, but in terms of just like density. Like he's getting heavier and heavier. So you definitely inflict the damage and you hit him, but he doesn't go like flying as you expect, right? And then we cut to Kit. So what is it that you are doing on screen, Kit?
Yeah, well, it looks pretty great because this case is probably about the same size as Kit. So I think she like arms herself with her shallow case and like uses the back handle just to like swing this around with like all of her force, probably to like likewise try and knock this evil monster is not Aiden at all off of the train.
I like it. Everyone's just like, you're dehumanized, you're dehumanized, you're dehumanized. Well, not everybody. But yeah, I like it. Cool. So you're hitting with the case?
Yeah, it's like they're real heavy. Like because like the case itself is like super heavy, but plus it's containing a cello, so it's like got a lot of like
heft.
Yeah, heft is a good word for it.
Cool.
And I think, like, as she goes flying forward, there's just this, like, swarm of vinyl records that go shooting past and around her, and they sort of, like, land sticking half out of the skin of this so that when she comes up and, like, hits it, they'll all shatter and sort of help out with her blow.
Cool.
And it's all from that sort of low-angle anime shot where, like, it makes the case look even, like, more
Oh, yeah,
massive
everything's,
than
like,
it is.
super stretched out.
Yeah.
And it totally, like, when you're swinging, the case totally, like, curves.
Yes, yeah. Totally.
Sweet. Okay, so what are you tagging here?
I think I'm tagging... I think I'm tagging... I'd like to tag unavailable because I think that lends itself to, like, the fiction we talked about with Laszlo and Aiden. Me looking even more unavailable because I'm beating the shit out of Aiden and also Laszlo's helping me do it, I guess. Oh, I feel terrible. And I think she's being audacious. And I don't know if she's being flexible. I guess she's like sort of appropriating her beloved musical instrument for a weapon, which is like pretty pretty flexible.
Sure.
But maybe those three.
Cool. So +1 or +2, I guess, with the help.
Yeah.
Assuming, of course, that you are helping. Yeah, we're apparently not Aiden's friends. Cool.
So I roll. Is it 3d6 + 2, or is it 2d6 + 2?
2d6 + 2.
2d6 + 2. Okay, cool.
3d6 + 2 would be so.
I know. I was gonna say that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
I got a 10 plus a 2. I got 12.
12 plus?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So what that means is it's momentous, a rare, perfect moment of grace, or else dehumanizing. Your choice.
I feel like I've done so much dehumanizing already.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys stay on brand if you want.
I don't know. I could see on the dehumanizing side, like maybe in this blow you realize that it's actually Aiden under all of this.
Yeah, that's perfect, actually.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm good for that.
It rehumanizes him and like shifts all the dehumanizing to you.
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
So you did another 4 damage, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Cool. All right, yeah. So tell me what it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So like, I feel like she totally smashes she gets a really good dent in like this bowling ball, and perhaps like it cracks a bit and fragments, and like maybe a panel of it like flickers a bit, and then in its flickering, like we see Aiden sort of like reflected back out of it for like a second, and then you get that anime shot of like Kit's eyes locking with Aiden's eyes, and then Kit's just like horror at having just like really brutally attacked like one of her classmates.
Cool. So is it like, do you see Aiden there because you hit it so hard that it sort of like retracts a little bit and you see Aiden in the center? Or
Yeah,
and then
that's gonna go with.
Cool. And then it sort of like bounces back like a sort of like nebulous bubble type thing, right?
Yeah, totes.
Cool. And then, so knowing what you know, Felix, what is your plan here?
Okay. So, again, I want to check in on tone, but okay. So, Aiden is Felix is naturally like cold-blooded, and so he takes out these 2 heat packs from his pockets, from their pockets, excuse me, and they slap them onto the back of the ball, and they use that to kind of melt their way through the ball because it's kind of permeable now. And the idea is they're digging their way through, like literally, like they're taking material and flinging it behind them so that they can dig their way in and pull Aiden out.
Oh, cool. I like that a lot.
And then if I end up like turning into a robot, like that stuff is the stuff that I've vampired out of the monster, and that's what I'll use to make my robot out of. So that was the idea for all of that. I just wanted to set that up.
So, your goal is not to inflict harm; it's to remove Aiden, right?
Yeah.
So, do you think you're rising to the moment? Maybe.
Let's look at the moves.
It's sort of like the act despite danger move, or it could be get your way too, depending how you want to frame it. Depends what you want to trigger.
Let's try rising to the moment then.
Cool. So what are you what name that fear? and
I'm
describe.
afraid that the ball will take me instead.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, cool. So yeah,
But
what do you want to take?
so I'm yelling out. I'm like, Aiden, Aiden, we're here to save you, not kill you.
Ostensibly.
And I'm like, come to me, and I'm like trying to dig my way through and stuff like that. I am I am just not playing to my labels. Ba 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 ba.
Well, I mean, it could even be selfish in that like everybody else is like it's almost like you're doing the pulling rank. Like everybody else is attacking this creature, and you're taking everything onto yourself, right?
Okay. Yeah,
I could see that.
I'm selfishly taking a very dangerous move. So that's
Yeah.
selfish.
Yeah, like you're putting yourself in immense danger to try to solve everyone else's problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And I guess I'm trying to be the leader by telling people to stop attacking, sort of. And this squishing my way through like a yolk or a womb is kind of morbid.
Yes,
So,
it is.
so that's
Agreed.
2d6 plus 1. And have a 12.
Wow, you guys are rolling real well. Cool. Aiden is perfect to be not much of a threat after all. Cool. Oh, I don't have a 12 plus condition on that one, but I think I'll make it something like the 12 plus where it's like a momentous, a rare moment of grace type thing. So yeah, you get what you want and you do it really well. So tell me what happens.
So I've leapt on top of the ball, and I've yelled at Aiden that I'm coming to save him, and I'm scooping bits and pieces of this thing away, and it's landing on the train behind me, and I get to a certain point where I basically have to dive in, and I grab Aiden by their like under their arms, and uh like I'm pulling out with them, and we just sort of both like uh eject from the ball as if we were rising from the ocean, like just sort of it all sort of splashes out around us, and we both fall onto the train, kind of covered in this mess. Um and um and like I say something like, I was like, Aiden, you know, stop fearing what you can't have. You can be loved. You've been reborn, is what I say.
Cool.
And that kind of helps me with my unlovable fear too. So
Hmm. Yeah. Like, do you guys come out of this in sort of like a hug or something? Because you're like
um
holding him when it bursts, and then you like kind of like gently fall to it as this thing bursts around you and stuff, or what are you picturing?
yeah, like I guess it kind of looks like the picture on the character sheet.
Oh. Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured I got my religious
Like,
look or my religious description and stuff like that all up in this.
right. And like, so the words that you say to Aiden is more of like a really like soft, intimate thing at like very close proximity and everything, right?
Yeah, I think that works better than yelling it at him.
Yeah, yeah. Sweet. Okay, yeah, I like that scene a lot then. Cool. So
and my intent was not to necessarily destroy the monster, just to take Aiden out of the equation. So if I don't know how you want to proceed with that, but I just wanted to make sure, like, I don't feel like it has to be defeated at this point.
no, I think that's good. Like, I think in terms of how long I wanted the fight scene to go, we've hit that anyway, and I think he was basically like 1 HP away from doing it. So I think removing is good, and I think
I can't
something like this versus getting like biffed as well.
You froze again there for a second, Fraser.
Oh, I did. Okay, well, I just like that. That's the resolution anyway, Mark. I think that's a good ending to the thing. Okay. So here's the question: does somebody now spray paint the thing, or what?
I had an idea as like climax is winding down here. I think Laszlo like gets up and he sort of like pulls off his headphones as he's running forward and goes to like grab and comfort Kit like by the shoulder and sort of pull her in close for like a close sort of embrace moment. Like, are you okay? Oh my God, that was so scary. There was a monster. Are you all right? But as he's like getting up close and staring directly into your eyes, I'd like to pull on your unavailable label and offer you, tempt you to like totally reject and shut Laszlo down here.
That's an interesting insight.
Oh, interesting. So,
and it can be because you like realize that I'm not the person that you have emotions for, or it can be because of this realization with Aiden, like whatever you feel's going on.
Ooh. Oh. Yeah, I kind of dig that, like, she's a bit mortified by what the two of us did, because she's, you know, fully like displacing blame.
Nice.
What she did. And like is in a bit of a panic about what to do with the fact that like the two of them almost like really hurt a classmate. So she probably does like the tsundere like anime push back at you to create some distance. And I don't think she says anything in return. She probably has this again like sort of the very like wide horrified like anime like eyes going on with like mouth slightly agape as she's trying to comprehend like what just happened.
And I think Laszlo like definitely sees you like push him away and then immediately turn back towards Aiden, and like you have all this emotion and concern for Aiden on your face.
Yeah, totally.
As he just like stumbles back sort of into the corner of shadows, like he slips the headphones back up over his ears and he's just not engaging anymore.
Aiden's like hugging Felix and it's all confusing.
Is it within the fiction, do you guys know that you turn into robots, or is this the first time that you've seen one of your like is this the first weird shit that's happened in your town? Right, like for you, like Aiden turning into the bowling ball thing, your friend turning into the weird robot. Is this like absurdism in that like it's the anime where things are just like, oh yeah, shit happens, you know? Or is this like the first really weird shit that's going on? What do people think?
Well, I feel like it's almost like the fully coolly thing of like they use words like overflow or like there's references to it like happening, but like this is the first time Kit's probably seen it like in person.
Right.
I've met a vampire before.
So this is nothing.
This is different.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't think Jackson has turned into a robot before, but I don't think it surprises Jackson that he turned into a robot.
Interesting. Okay. And so what is, as like people are viewing Jackson as a robot, what do people think about that? Like in character.
I think like maybe I've only like heard urban legends or rumors about sort of like kaiju monster mecha fights or whatever. Didn't really know that they were real until this. And I would be like super shocked and floored if there weren't the infinite emotional devastation opening up at my feet and just a well of darkness surrounding me.
Okay, sounds good.
This being slightly pushed away by this girl I was trying to impress is much more important and impactful than the giant robot fight.
Right. As one does. What about Felix? What do you think or feel as you look at Jackson as a robot, if anything?
I think I feel like Jackson's being true to himself when he's like this. Like this is some reflection on his soul. Like this is a true
Usually
form.
does nothing. Cool. That's an interesting take. And then Kit feels nothing, Lauren.
No, I think Kit feels like, it totally makes sense that Jackson would turn into a robot, like anyone turn into a robot, because like they have a lot of shit that they have to deal with, and they're kind of like weird and strange anyway. But that's not going to happen to me.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. Oh yeah, I should have asked too, David, when you turned into a robot, did you have any repressed bad traits?
Yes, meandering.
Meandering. Cool. Sounds good. So you can erase that.
Okay.
And then next session, things will happen with that. That's part of you guys learning as players later.
So that's like something escaping out into the world, basically?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Interesting. So Jackson, does that perception that Felix has, is that right, or what? Is that Jackson's perception of themselves too?
Yeah, I think in a on a certain level that's true. Jackson is searching for what his role in life is, but obviously doesn't fit the normal mold. So yeah, I think that is very true.
Do you think you're rejecting conformity then? Just by being in this state, in this perception?
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
I think I'm just going to tag eccentric and loner because those are the two that feel most appropriate here.
Cool.
So flat 2d6 roll.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a 12.
Nice.
But no, I'm fine with failing this roll. I guess I'm not.
Cool. So you choose 2. I guess, yeah, I need to make more 12 plus results.
Yeah, although here's the thing. None of them really feel like, so I can give someone a label if they don't have one on me, but I don't know who like I'm rejecting conformity on. I don't know who I'm taking distress from.
Mm-hmm.
Are your parents telling you who to be?
Well, I mean, I think it's like a catch-all for rejecting conformity. So you would just choose the options that make sense for the situation, right? So you could get rid of a label, you could take +1 forward, but yeah, probably the next time we play the reject conformity will be the most overhauled move, because I want it to apply that first situation that we were better, as well as now too. But
yeah, I guess I'll take the +1 forward. And as far as the labels, I kind of like my labels.
really? Okay.
Well, you know what? Maybe, even though I rolled loner, I'm gonna get rid of it. I think Jackson is doesn't want to be alone.
Cool. Yeah, I'll make a note of this for cool. Okay. Yeah, I think there could be some more satisfying options in this move that would feel better for, because I like the moment that stemmed from you rolling this, but then the options are like unsatisfying, I think, for the result of the outcome. So yeah, I'll overhaul that move a little bit so it's a little bit better.
A suggestion that I might have is shed or change a label. That might work.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like a kind of like evolve. It would be the way to evolve a label or something like that. Sure. Well, did you want to change loner to something else then? Or something else? Yeah, I like that.
Because, yeah, it gets pretty difficult going down to just 2 traits and 2 labels.
Yeah. Do people have a suggestion of what your new perception of Jackson is now?
Honest.
That's pretty good.
I'm going to tweak it a little hard on his sleeve.
Cool.
Can I? Oh, sorry.
Can you what?
I have a move I would like to try out myself, but
sure.
But we've been appropriate.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. I think we're good with the results of that move, right, David?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you want to do, Kit?
So I kind of want to like do a minor retcon to push Kit's rejection like a bit harder.
Ooh, okay. I would like to be more mean, please.
Into it.
And I think like when Laszlo comes to like help her out and it's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Not only does she sort of like push him back, but I think she says like just leave me alone. Like I think she's trying to like get her away, but it's like demanding that you sort of like give her some space.
I got you.
Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense, Fraser.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Guys are mean. I like it.
And so, yeah, I think she's being unavailable. And I think I feel like she's being like somewhat audacious by sort of being very clear and bold with what she wants, or what she thinks she wants. Abandoned. No, I don't think abandoned applies. I think it's just those two.
Did you roll?
Oh no, yeah. I'll go ahead and roll it up. I rolled an 8.
Cool.
Interesting. So I can either give you a label or choose one from below. I like giving you a label. You're mean to me.
They've
Why
been
not?
happier about being made.
I like cold. Or
Okay.
no, I like hot and cold.
That's even better. That is so perfect.
Cool. I like that. Nice. So, does anybody continue with the spray painting action? And does Jackson remain a robot, or is this like we just jump cut to something completely unrelated, like anime style? Like suddenly you just arrive at class and everyone's just like da 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 da.
So I had questions about it. If we are going to do the absurdity of it,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if this is what I want, but I do think it's silly. It would be kind of silly and in tone of the Fooly Cooley style for me to like show up to class as a robot and no one like says anything that I'm a robot. It's just like I try to fit in like the the desk and being this oversized robot and just
I had an idea for you, David, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Just throwing this out there. Like, we could have a scene out on the playground or whatever, but like they've hooked up a ball on a string to you, and all the kids are like playing with you as they play.
Yes.
That's awesome.
I actually think it might make sense to that. And I'm not sure if this is what the rules intended, but like maybe in the fiction of the world, I stay a robot until the repressed trait that got out is resolved.
Mm,
Is that how, like, I don't know. I'm because that repressed trait's going to come back up, and if I'm not a robot for it, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that.
yeah. Well, it's something that like you'll need to deal with later. Essentially, it's like the threat system in the game. Like you'll be internalizing these things, they get repressed, then they get released, and then I materialize them in the world in various different ways as either like creatures that you battle or things that get co-opted by the adult world, things like that. So I don't think it needs to be directly linked to your state as a robot. Yeah.
So then, I mean, I guess the thing that set Jackson off is gone, so maybe he turns back to a human.
Sure.
I don't know. What do other people think?
I was thinking after school, you could be back to being a human.
Yeah, I like the idea of just like unresolved smash cut to several hours later and everything's normal.
Exactly. That's very FLCL as well. Does anybody do the spray painting thing then? Or is it just like that's what we cut to? Is like things on the train, we get the sort of like the poignant moments, the mean moment, and then like Jackson sort of, figuring out that this form isn't so bad, and then it's just like Jackson's at the playground as a robot getting played with.
Yeah, I don't feel into the spray painting at the moment.
Cool.
Anybody else? Well, since I'm the cool one, you all follow me. We're not doing it.
Nice. Even though you don't have the leader label. I like that a lot. Cool. Neat. Then I think, yeah, we'll just get like the smash cut. And it's like in the anime it would be the song that was upbeat for the altercation and the conflict starts doing the wind down thing, right? And then we get the smash cut to like back at the school with the kids playing with David as a robot and all that kind of stuff. And
I think I've got the way that I stopped being a robot. Like everyone's having fun with this game that we created, and it's great. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of it, like all of the metal pieces fall apart, and there's just Jackson in the middle, being like, "Oh." Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Cool. So are the pieces just like littered around the play ground?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. And so are you clothed or what?
Yes, I don't want it. Yeah, I think
Like what?
tone wise, I don't want that to be the gag.
Yeah, like tone wise in the anime, is this like what is the audience meant to feel in this particular scene?
Um, I think just I think it really hits home that that while we're special, we're not special for long. That's kind of depressing.
So is Jackson depressed when he's not a robot, like in this scene, or
Um,
like is the song sad?
I think it goes like it's that upbeat thing, and then very suddenly when it all falls apart, it's just quiet.
Okay.
And like that like poignant silence. You know, here's something magical that happened, and it just abruptly ended.
Interesting. Let me just make a note.
So
Cool.
yeah, I think Jackson might be a little depressed over that.
Yeah. Fair. Cool. Let me pull up. Cool. Okay, let's take 5. Let's come back at 43 because we missed the last break and I need a bio break. So I'll see you at 43. Yeah, it's weird that my internet is being so strange today. Because the speed test is like, oh yes, you're getting all of this stuff, but every now and then it'll like stutter or something. So I wonder if it's just like an uneven thing with the router or something. Maybe I'll power cycle it later or something. It's weird.
That whole robot scene was awesome, though. Oh, speaking of delays.
Yeah, that just froze for me. so what did you say?
I was just saying I thought that whole robot scene went super cool.
Oh, cool, thanks. Yeah.
There was a lot of like learning our way through the rules and negotiating what sort of fiction we were going for. So I definitely think another time would be way faster, but that was super gratifying.
Yeah, I was super happy with it as well. And I want to get more feedback too, so I'll just do a wrap-up scene real quick, and then we can chat about more stuff. But I think we get the playground scene, right? And then we get another jump cut thing for the finale sort of thing of this anime episode in particular. Everybody is in the classrooms. It's very like sterile, right? Since it's a corporate school, essentially, right? It is like a white room, sterile, not very like homey looking type deal. And let's see what else I can fit in here from the mainstream. Oh, on all the papers around you and the posters and stuff like that. Things like I'm trying to remember middle school, but those stupid posters where it's trying to get you like motivated, we're like live only for today and all that kind of shit. There's a whole bunch of those all around, but at the top of them there's the like hamster logo, all chibi style, right? Like the all produced by the corporate the corporation. And I think you guys hear the power lines, and actually even the fluorescent lighting gets like a little bit brighter as your teacher walks in, and you see Oliver is actually there. And we said that before, he dressed all in white, right? Let me just refresh you guys what Oliver looked like. So he was like a peripheral friend of you. Of your group or whatever, but never quite did.
He's cut out again.
Okay. So Oliver is nerdy looking. He has big glasses, black frames, and he was like on the peripheral of your group. So here's the question: as he walks into the room and he looks at you all, what about Oliver tells you that he's been like co-opted by the adult world as you look at him?
Well, it's not just that he's wearing like a button-down shirt and a tie. It's that the tie has the like little hamster in a wheel logo running all the way down it as a pattern.
Right.
I think, he was kind of nerdy and like reserved before. Now he's standing up like super straight, hair like slicked gel back, glasses have been replaced with contacts. He looks like a corporate douchebag.
Cool.
He's very pale and anemic looking.
He's anemic looking?
Yes.
Like really white and like pallor or what?
Yeah, like the color's kind of drained from him.
Oh. Cool. Lauren?
I think this one is like I think this is specifically what Kit would notice, being Kit and her obsession with like adult relationships. But I think he is like, I think he's a hickey on his neck.
Is it what? A key on his neck?
Like a love bite, like on his neck.
A love bite. Interesting.
I've heard of a
Cool.
hickey, by the way.
Cool. Interesting. Those are interesting things. So he does the typical thing where he's just like, everybody else in your classroom does the like, he just starts doing attendance, I think, actually, and everybody else just thinks this is completely normal. Like nobody's reacting to this at all. He writes his name on the chalkboard, like Mr. Oliver. Crap, all I can think of is Twist. Oliver, what's a good last name for Oliver? Oliver
King.
King, yeah, that's good. Yeah, so he writes like Mr. King, no more Oliver, right? And starts doing
Underneath
attendance.
all the styling and everything, like, does he still look like? Because wasn't he our age? Wasn't he like a middle schooler or something?
Yeah, he still looks like a middle schooler. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, just wanted to check.
Yeah, and so he starts doing the roll call, and I think that's where it cuts, right? And everybody else is like, this is completely normal, and then maybe we get the look of you guys being like, what the fuck is going on, right? That kind of thing. Cool. And that's where we cut. So let's quickly do the end of session, and then I'll get time for feedback, hopefully.
That was great.
Yeah, it's pretty weird, eh? Okay, so each player answers the following questions. Did you prove a good repressed trait false? If so, change it. If it proved true, then you mark XP. So if you during this sort of episode, if you have something in your repressed good trait that you did act towards, then you mark XP, and it is true. If you have something that's repressed there and it didn't prove true, it's still there, but you change what it is.
So I think I was having a really good run at going for my impervious repressed good trait, but that whole thing with Kit at the end totally shattered that.
Yeah.
So I'll need to change that to a different repressed trait.
Yes, yeah.
Cool.
Actually, I think we proved that Jackson's not dependable because, when everyone was depending on him for a good time is when he fell apart as a robot.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I did not intend for that, but to change that repressed trait, but I guess I do.
Yeah. Cool. What about Felix?
Yeah, I was brave.
Yes, you were. Cool. So mark XP. What about Kit?
Improvisational. I feel like the cello beating up monsters was
That
quite
feels out there. Yeah.
improvisational.
I think so. I think that's a fair thing to say. Did you defeat something that embodied or personified a bad repressed trait? Nobody did that yet, because it would be like fighting your own one. Which maybe David gets to do later. Did you use the established representative items during setup to reinforce themes? So did we use the visual motifs that we set up to continue to represent those things for the fiction? I think yes. Right? Everyone can mark XP. Did you learn something new and important about the world? Yeah. There's robots and shit. So, yeah.
Sometimes we turn into them. It's cray cray.
Yeah. And if anybody, you have your own specific things. So when you fail, you mark XP. But when you internalize how you grow up, you also mark XP, which is just a subjective thing for every character. But if you mark that, then you also need to tell the table what you internalizing how to grow up looks like and means for your character.
Can you expand some on what you mean by that?
Sure. So like when you internalize how you choose to grow up, you mark XP. So basically it's like on a meta level, the adult world's continuing telling you how to be an adult and to grow up and all of that kind of stuff. And when you choose to internalize something like that, like let's say, wasn't somebody a smoker or something in this? Was that something that we had set up last session?
I'm a smoker.
Yeah, so like if we had a visual motif of the grown-up world saying that smoking is really cool, and you decided to be cool and smoke, you're internalizing how you chose to grow up, and then you tell us what it means and you mark XP. Does that make sense?
So
When
it has to come from some sort of external source.
well, it's a subjective thing. That's just an example.
Mm-hmm. So I think I might I think I've got something like this. So obviously vandalizing stuff is not an adult thing. That's a very immature thing to do.
Yes.
And Jackson has been basically wanting to protect things from being damaged. So that that sort of oh hey, vandalizing, destroying things is bad would that count?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
Okay. So I have chosen to care for Aiden and tried to help him at the end. So I think that's, caring for someone and helping them is something I've done towards growing up.
Totally.
I think Laszlo had certain like spontaneity and like ideas about what sort of romantic things could be, like how you could just like get swept up into a sort of romantic moment and it would all be perfect and soundtracked and choreographed and everything. And I think some of that's like he's probably taking this thing with Kit and internalizing like not being as spontaneous, not being as like reaching out and just randomly emotion-y with people, more closed off and adult.
That sounds good. Yeah. And then basically the part where it's telling the table what it means is just like an invitation to people to expound on, what their character's thinking and extrapolating more of that kind of stuff if they need to. And otherwise, that is that. That's the end of session procedure.
You said something about fears playing into end of session as well?
Fears. Oh. Yeah, it should be surmounting. Oh, I don't think I have that in my end of session thing. Yeah, there should be one if you surmounted your fear, then you mark XP as well. But it's not there at the moment.
I definitely did that.
What was your fear?
My fear is cowardly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You did that thing. Cool.
I didn't come near mine.
No, what was yours?
It's the repressed memories about my secret repressed memories. We didn't get near it. How about that?
Okay.
I was like, it's this thing. Oh, wait, I'm not supposed to tell you.
Yeah, right. Cool. Okay.
So Jackson, you didn't have an identity crisis when you became a robot. Did you overcome that fear?
I mean, so I was kind of treating the robot as part of the identity crisis. Like, it was kind of a metaphor. Like, its shape is kind of the metaphor for the identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The identity crisis is like who am I? Where do I fit in with the world? And that robot does not fit in with anything. So.
Okay. Sure. All right, I'm gonna stop the broadcast.